There's at least $180 billion earmarked for data center construction over the next 10 to 15 years. If you throw in Microsoft's Stargate project, that 180 billion jumps up to 280 billion. And this is just across North American big tech companies investing in data center construction. So why does this matter? Why is this relevant to AI? Well, one thing that AI needs, as we all know, is chips, particularly GPUs or AI optimized chips. That's why NVIDIA has been absolutely killing it over the past couple of years because they're selling boatloads of their GPUs, which are some of the best chips in the world for advanced AI. Well, where are you going to put all of the chips that you buy? You put them in data centers. Data centers are essentially the physical infrastructure, not just for AI, but for the internet in general, for a lot of technology. But there is a really big boom happening right now in data center construction, and it's largely being driven by artificial intelligence. In my last video, I talked a little bit about venture capital investment into the AI space from Q1 to Q2 2024. And that's one lens of looking at investment into AI right now. This is a slightly different, but equally, if not more important, lens of looking into big tech investing in data center construction. The theme here is that the release of GPT spurred a lot of excitement, spurred a lot of quick competition, and a lot of rapid product releases to the market available to businesses and consumers. But we also, as a market, as an industry, pretty quickly hit a physical limit on what artificial intelligence is able to accomplish. A lot of those physical limits exist in the energy layer and also in the data center layer. So we're specifically going to dive into data center construction in this video because as more data centers come online, that will unlock more artificial intelligence capabilities. So it's a really, really important metric to follow, if you will. The rise of AI, a driving force behind data center expansion. The boom in data center construction, according to McKinsey, is expected to be 10% through 2030. Some experts predict even higher growth, 20% annual for the data center hyperscale market. At the end of 2023, there were approximately 8,000 data centers worldwide and one-third in the United States. Interesting quote from Schroeder Investments. Supply chain was already struggling to keep pace with surging demand for data center space in major metropolitan areas prior to mass adoption of AI tools. Supply chain bottlenecks and a lack of distributable power have led to low vacancy rates and significant pricing power for data center owners in these locations. I like this quote because they do a good job of connecting data centers to energy, which is, as we mentioned earlier in this video, the other sort of critical foundational bottleneck for artificial intelligence right now. And the scale of energy consumption from data centers globally is pretty wild. This paragraph does a great job of capturing that. In 2022, reports data centers accounted for approximately 460 terawatt hours, or 2% of worldwide electricity. For context, consider this from the IEA. This demand is roughly equivalent to the electricity consumption of Japan. Why does AI require more data centers? AI requires massive amounts of data and training to produce as needed. Traditionally, data centers are built with CPU-powered racks. However, AI requires GPUs, so there's kind of an upskilling or an uptech that needs to happen in existing data centers and or just new data centers need to be built. AI is now shovel ready. Great piece by David Kahn over at Sequoia Cap. I actually highly recommend reading the whole piece, but we're going to talk about a few of the key details. We believe that 2025 will be the year of the data center and that we are on the cusp of transitioning from a hype cycle into an industrial driven build cycle. There's a lot packed into that claim right there. This is kind of what he's talking about in terms of hype cycle. So the idea is that we are probably have already rounded this peak up here, and he's suggesting we're also rounding this trough at the bottom. So the bubble, sort of the hype cycle, is bursting, and we're entering this build phase in 2025, which in this graph is called the slope of enlightenment. But the build phase plateaus into something that's much more realistic, much more reasonable, and a state of more consistent productivity. Okay, let's look at Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. So, Amazon in the first half of 2024, they've announced that they're investing 50 billion into a new data center project with 216 new buildings. And overall, they've committed 100 to 150 billion over the next 15 years into data center construction. 11 billion in Indiana, 5.3 in Saudi Arabia, 10 billion in Mississippi, some more in Pennsylvania, Round Rock, Japan, Germany, Taiwan, Singapore, kind of all over the world for them. Microsoft is reportedly doubling their data center construction in 2024. They've had recent announcements for construction in Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin, Indiana, Georgia, France, Germany, UK, Sweden, Spain, Malaysia, Indonesia, and so on. Again, it's kind of all over the world for them. And here's their Stargate project, right? This one hasn't really been confirmed yet. It's a $100 billion data center investment right here. So the original idea is that Microsoft and OpenAI were kind of teaming up to build out a $100 billion data center. We'll see if they actually do it. Keep an eye out for Project Stargate. Yeah, set to launch in 2028 if they go through with it. Google, of the three, actually has the smallest kind of committed data center construction. They've got 2 billion planned out in Indiana, 1 billion in Missouri, another billion in Finland, and then some at Iowa. What's interesting about them is they're also in the chip development game with their TPUs. So on some level, they're competing with NVIDIA too. So that kind of makes them a little bit different. They're probably investing a lot in that development as well. Meta, we're going to skip because we don't really have investment numbers from them, but they do own a large amount of NVIDIA GPUs already. That's how they trained Llama. So they have a footprint. They're probably going to expand it. We just don't know by how much. One project that David Kahn did not capture is Elon Musk's Gigafactory of Compute. So xAI purchased 100,000 NVIDIA GPUs, and they're planning on building a data center to train Grok 3.0 with those GPUs. So he's also getting into the game. They recently raised $6 billion, so likely some healthy chunk of that money will go towards this data center construction, but we're not really sure how much. Data center boom reveals AI hype's physical limits. We've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but there's that connection to data center capacity and also energy availability that's frankly a big limit right now. So it's kind of interesting. A quick graph to put energy consumption into perspective. ChatGPT queries are 10 times more power intensive than Google queries. So this graph is saying one ChatGPT query takes almost 3 watt hours to run, and a Google query something around a third of a watt hour. So pretty wild difference, order of magnitude there. So you can only imagine at scale as GPT and other LLM systems become online and available to businesses and consumers, the energy demands are just going to be crazy, like nothing else we've ever seen, really. Power grids across the world, arranged by age of the power grid. This is an interesting graph to consider. So Europe's over here at the far left. They have the oldest power grids in the world. So they were early to the game, but they may not be in the best position to be as nimble as possible in this current boom. All the way on the far right, as you can see, our friends in China have the youngest power grid, and North America is second oldest. So it's going to be interesting to see how much age of power grid really is a factor in adaptability, but you have to think that it is going to be a factor. Here's another interesting graph just to kind of drive home the point of demand, right? The point of how much these data centers have been needed and demanded by the market. So this is a graph of vacancy rates across data centers in Europe. So from 2016 all the way to 2024, you can just see it's down and to the right. Vacancy has been consistently, for the most part, dropping year over year. And right now it's hovering in Frankfurt below 5%. The highest is in Paris, and that's still below 15%. So I'm sure the data center providers are very happy about this, but the writing's on the wall. It's very clear. There's a very high demand, and that's another key data point that's driving a lot of the construction boom right now. Here's an interesting line that we'll end on today. There's a scramble to find alternative sources of energy, such as geothermal electricity. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has proposed that AI's energy needs to be met with nuclear fusion. He has talked about this quite a bit. So again, this is the entire other thread to the kind of physical infrastructure conversation around artificial intelligence. Data, chips and data centers are a big part of it, but energy availability is perhaps a bigger part of it. So we will get to that topic in future videos, but for now, very much appreciate you hanging out. Give me some comments below on what you thought of this video. I just want to put stuff out there that's useful and interesting to you all. So thanks so much. I'll catch you later.